Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to get started in just a minute once everybody gets a chance to come on in from the waiting room. We'll give about 30 seconds. All right, we got quite a crowd. They're coming in fast and furious today. Welcome, everybody. I am Maggie Bittner, for those of you who don't know, Head of Education at SIA, and we are so excited to have our friends at New Order and Darn Tough joining us today to talk more about virtual selling. As we're entering this season that is going to be completely different from anything else that any of us have ever witnessed before, we're so excited to have them helping us and guiding us through some best practices and what they've learned along the way. Going at just some nuts and bolts and some technical things, we will be using the Q&A tool, what you can use at the bottom of your screen. So if you have any questions for any of our presenters, please feel free to use that. Anything that we cannot address during the time frame we have, we will follow up with you afterwards on. And I think that's about it. Sarah, do you want to take it away?
Absolutely. I'm Sarah Sandberg from New Order. I'm here today with Tressa and Mark from Darn Tough. I am beyond thrilled to be here with them. They not only have been a wonderful partner of ours for years, I know that you're going to feel the kind of warmth and openness on today's webinar that we feel with them all the time. Today, they're going to share two major things. One of them is going to be the pieces that they had in place pre-COVID. And some of those pieces have become that much more critical for them today. And then they're also going to share some of the new things that they have implemented as a result of the pandemic to support their retailers the best that they can. Now, the approach to today's content has been to provide you with things that are very tactical and actionable. So we called it a masterclass. Don't let that fool you. This is really going to get into some of the meat of how they've been running the business. So a few things to know about us. I'm Sarah. I get the privilege of heading up our customer success team here at New Order. New Order is a two-sided B2B platform that is built for both brands and retailers. Our goal here, my goal, is to help bring products to life to support the buying and the selling and the collaboration that needs to happen online. I'm here at home in Minnesota, and I really hope that you don't get treated to an interruption from one of my twin 4-year-olds or the dog. We've got Tressa here today who works with Darn Tough. She has been with them for 4 years. She started out in dealer service. Now she's the sales manager for the US. Tressa grew up in Vermont. She did a little stint out west, but the mountains called her back, and she now lives 10 minutes from the mill with her husband and a little one that's on the way. Yay. And not surprising, given the industry she's in, Tressa likes running and hiking and gardening and anything that gets her outside. And we've got Mark from Darn Tough, who has been with them almost since the beginning. He's led sales at the brand as the director of sales for the last 11 years. Been in the Snowsports industry his entire career, worn many hats, both sides of the table, working for different Snowsports brands and retailers. Mark has shared that he is a proud father of 3 amazing young women, and he was willing to share with us that this January's SIA virtual show will be his 33rd, maybe even 34th show.
Somewhere in
Mark, we won't quite count that accurately. Yeah. So happy that you guys are here. I want to get into the meat of it because I know everyone's so excited to hear about what you've been doing. So Tressa, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can take them through what were some of the things that you were working on before the pandemic, and that will kind of set the stage then for how things have changed today.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, New Order and SIA, for having us and thinking we, have our stuff to our act together, which isn't always the case. So we appreciate that. So here at Darn Tough, a couple of years ago, we started shifting our focus to more digital assets and digital access. my screen a little bit, for information for both our buyers and our reps. But the onset of COVID really pushed that focus to the forefront of how we tell the Darn Tough story, how we support our retailers, and basically how we sell socks. So the pandemic really made us realize how lucky we were to have already started that digital journey, and then also really how much we still had to learn and how much we did still rely on trade shows and in-person line showings and those traditional tactics that we were most comfortable with. We were definitely pushed outside of our comfort zone, but I think we shifted relatively quickly. A lot of trial and error in the beginning there, but first I'll cover kind of what we had started already doing before the pandemic hit, and then kind of how we pivoted once we were thrown into that new normal. So we had actually launched with New Order February of 2018. We've had huge success with the platform. We had never used a B2B site prior to New Order. And you can see from the graph here that ever since we launched New Order, each season we have a higher percentage of our orders received through the New Order platform, with 87% of our spring 21 preseason orders coming in through New Order, which is just incredible and more than I think we had ever imagined would happen. So this of course saves time for our reps, our dealer service team, and just provides order management visibility that we didn't have or offer before. New Order also is a place for inventory access. Having access to real-time inventory to place fill-in orders is obviously so important and has been important through this last 6 to 8 months, and then obviously especially during the holiday season. The ability to open the app on the phones for reps when they're meeting with buyers or doing in-store clinics just provides so much information right at their fingertips. We also customize our line sheets by category, by season. We do retailer-specific assortments, so it really helps curate virtual line showings or follow-ups from line showing meetings. All this probably seems like a no-brainer to those of you that has had a B2B site for a while, but to us, this was definitely a game changer, and it's become the central location for all of our information for our reps and our buyers. Definitely reduced the number of phone calls and emails looking for inventory or just questions on order status, etc. We have also partnered with Locally for many years now, and we saw a huge boost in the adoption of Locally at the beginning of the pandemic and then throughout the whole process or the whole time period. In the beginning, when things were so fluid, stores were able to easily update their store hours, add curbside pickup or buy online, pick up in store options if they didn't have it before, or even sell products if they didn't have a website up and running yet. So we send out kind of best practices and reminders to our reps about Locally often because it's such a great tool for them to utilize. Since March, we've seen a 56% increase in retailers that have claimed their profile on Locally, and then also a 25% increase in our retailers that now share inventory through Locally and our store locator on our website. So we've seen definitely a big boost in adoption by our retailers, so they take advantage of this tool that's definitely really helpful when things are changing all the time right now. We had set up an online portal for our rep team to access. This was one of those projects that we put off for a very long time, and probably too long, because once we did it, we realized how easy it was and how beneficial it was for our reps and for our dealer service team and for anyone accessing information. The portal houses all of our seasonal documents, so catalogs, price lists, up-to-date information on trade shows we're attending, and really any other valuable information that I think our reps will need in order to sell. We definitely keep this up to date. I'd say I update this on a weekly basis, so reps and whoever is accessing it really can feel confident that the document or whatever they're accessing is up to date. Another platform that has drastically reduced back and forth emails and phone calls since everybody or the rep team can access the documents 24/7. Again, probably long overdue, but for us, it was a game changer. Another platform that we've utilized for some time now is Image Relay. So this is our digital asset bank that our reps and all of our retailers have access to, with everything going, online and needing more digital assets for social media. This has really been an important platform for our retailers to utilize. We update the site regularly with new photo shoots and updated digital assets. So retailers will always have updated imagery of new styles or new lifestyle photography to use on their online store or in-store for merchandising purposes. A couple years ago, about 2.5 years ago, I started sending out a monthly newsletter to our retailers, not really knowing kind of how it was going to be received or what to expect. And I've definitely found that it's been an invaluable communication with our retail base. Not only does it let us get in front of our retailers in a very personal way, but it's a great platform for sharing information around line launches, order deadline reminders, media hits where you can find Darn Tough in the media, and so much more. We add new things pretty much every month. So anything that we think the retailers should know about or reminders for them on best practices for New Order or locally or Image Relay, we include in the newsletter, and we try to make it kind of fun and different every month. And we've had some really great feedback from buyers on this newsletter, just reminding them what we're doing here at the mill or in Northfield in our community, especially in the beginning of the pandemic with kind of the anxiety and the panic around what this would mean for everybody, and both in business and personally. It was a nice way for us to stay in touch and communicate with our retailers. Kind of cliche, but we were all in it together, and I think this was a great way to kind of bring us all on the same page, which we'll definitely continue doing this for probably forever. So that kind of covers what we had already started, and then I'll kind of hand it back to Sarah.
I think this is a perfect segue. So for anyone who's just joined or catching up, what Tressa just shared was the pieces that Darn Tough had in place before the pandemic. So now we're going to fast forward to March of this year. Clearly, you guys had a number of useful things in place that it sounds like is still being utilized today, but talk me through what did those first couple days, months, weeks look like? Obviously, your retailer relationships are so important to you, and like, what was that strategy? How did you go about, what were things looking like on your end?
So thank you first, Sarah. That's great questions. Tressa, can we stop sharing for a sec and show where we are here? Maybe you guys are seeing me, I don't know. Anyway, thank you, Sarah. Great question. And thank you, Maggie, and everybody over at SIA. And Sarah, you and Lisa and New Order, you guys are awesome. It's been our privilege to work with you guys. I love that we're doing these events, and I think it's really important. We didn't have a script on how to handle this, and I think being able to have these, share different ideas and how we're thinking outside of the box and how other people are thinking outside of the box, whether you're a retailer or a vendor, is really important. So I really appreciate you guys doing this from the SIA side. And again, you guys at New Order, thank you. To your question, Sarah, when it started unfolding and it went really fast, as we all remember, we were all pretty scared, man. We didn't know what to expect out of this. And man, every day was different. And it was like, okay, now what? And then another thing would hit so it just kept going further and further. And again, we didn't have a script, right? We didn't have anybody saying, oh, this is what you do for a global pandemic. We had no idea, right? So what we did know is we had to be proactive and we had to communicate. I think the theme that I'm going to give today more than anything, or what we should take away, is communication, whether that be with your team or with your vendor partners. So the steps that we took were basically facing three different fronts. Certainly our retail partners, our sales team as well, and then the mill itself. From the mill side, you know, a lot like most of the people on this call, we were, you know, we are a family-owned business. It's Rick, his dad, and the mill, and that's it. And, you know, we're not a big marketing company or sales conglomerate. It's family-owned, and we had, going into this, we had over 350 hardworking Vermonters, you know, working at the mill. And Rick and Mark have always looked at that as being, you know, responsible for 350 car payments or 350 mortgages or tuitions. So, you know, they've always been family first and people first. It helped immensely in the very beginning that we were deemed essential from the government because of our contracts with the special ops teams. We were able to stay open when governments and state and local people were telling other people to shut down. So that certainly helped. We were able to keep all of our employees for most of that time in the early days. We continued paying their wages. We paid their benefits all the way through. There was a time near, you know, maybe in June-ish that it wasn't totally sustainable to keep everybody on, because at that point, the demand had slowed down because everybody kind of shrunk down and said, okay, what's going to happen next? But we ended up having to furlough a few people, but man, we took care of them and continued to obviously pay their benefits, but also worked with them. Our HR department worked with everybody, you know, held their hand through the process, making sure that they were signing the right documents, filling out the documents, and then literally handed them off to the state so they could get assistance. So pretty dang proud of that, you know, we were paying near the end, we were paying people not to work, but that's important. And that was important to Rick and his dad. Next was the sales team. You know, most of these guys, this team is amazing. They've been with us, almost everybody from the beginning. They too are like family. They were heavily invested in the success of this brand, you know, most of them in the very beginning when everybody was telling us that, you know, the world didn't need another premium sock brand. So they too are like family. So we took steps immediately. I won't go into the details of it, but we wanted to make sure that they were, you know, they have family too. And their independent reps and their other brands may be more affected than Darn Tough from where they're manufactured, whether it be overseas or wherever. And we know that we're here. So we were able to help them. It was important for us to do so, commission-wise. The last part is obviously probably the most important. And that's with what we did for the retail partners. We always had a mantra here, and it's kind of a two-part process. And, you know, one being what got us here won't keep us here. And that's 100% true. We have to evolve. We have to keep moving. But the second part is equally as important. And that's don't ever forget what got us here or who got us here. And who got us here were these, you know, the independent snow sports and outdoor retailers. That's where we started. You know, without them, we wouldn't be here, period. So it was really important for us to do what we could to, you know, ensure their success to the best of our ability. Again, I'll go back to communication was key. They're still our top priority to this day. And, you know, we're not in an e-com bubble where it didn't matter. Those people mattered. And so through communication and discussing our options, we came up with, you know, a bunch of little steps, but some four pretty big ones. Immediately, we extended dating. So not only for our outstanding invoices in spring of 20, but then we carried that through to fall 20 and actually into spring 21 next season. We're still offering that extended dating. Again, dealers are in survival mode, and you know, it's tough out there. They're exhausted. this can help, and we knew we could do it. Along those same lines, we then also extended our hours for our accounts receivable people. The owners, and we heard it all the time, the owners and the managers, they're wearing every hat in the store. I mean, they're doing the accounting, they're opening the door, they're working on the sales floor, they're cleaning the bathrooms, right? So we wanted to make sure that we were available on their schedule rather than the other way around. So we extended our dating for our AR team so that they could have late night discussions or early morning discussions when the store wasn't open. We also empowered Wendy, who's our amazing HR lead, to come up with plans to be a partner with our partners. And I think that helped and set up programs when needed. Weekly meetings. So we started having weekly meetings with our sales team, where before we really didn't have that. We'd meet maybe once a month. But because the country was so diverse in what was going on, in some parts of the country, it was complete shutdown. Other parts of the country, no masks and everything's open. So we had weekly meetings with our sales team. They would go around the room virtually and just tell us what was going on. Again, the communication, what's happening in your territory, what are you hearing from your retailers? Finding out what we could do and how we could react if need be. Lastly was probably it was hard at first, but that was, we were about to go into selling our new spring 21 line. But putting on our merchant hats, and my merchant hat, I was like, that's not a good idea to have a bunch of new products. So we immediately culled the line. Product didn't love it as much, but because they had just developed this beautiful line that we were going to now take things out of. But it was the right thing to do. Again, buyers were in survival mode. We needed somehow to lighten the burden on their open to buy if we could. So by narrowing it, we allowed the retailer the retail partner to buy around the line they already had, to fill in their holes on their wall or on their racks. Easily and frankly for less money. The less they had to spend, we didn't want them out there. You didn't need to spend a lot of money. And that was our goal on that. And, it was a kick in the butt, right, for that time, because on top of a global pandemic, we, had a really tough summer with a lot of social unrest across the country. We had, crazy wildfires in the West. We had record-breaking hurricanes in the Southeast and all the flooding we had there. So, to say it was unprecedented is an understatement. Again, I'll go back to it. The communication was everything, though, is to make sure that our sales team was talking to our retailers were talking to us if they needed things. Tressa talking to me, we're trying to figure out, are we coming to work? Are we not? All the way around, it was really to enhance communication. I think we learned a lot. I think, even if when we come out of this, we've learned a lot about the communication and making sure that we are, carry that stuff forward. So fast forward a little bit. So 4 months into this, we're starting to see that we have a new selling cycle, and we needed to pivot to what the new normal was. And the new normal is no in-person trade shows. So we had, here at Dartmouth, we play in so many different diverse categories. We have run shows, hike shows, lifestyle shows, outdoor ski, all of those. And it was kind of amazing to watch them all try to hold on and say we're going to be in person, and then at the last minute say, nope, it's going virtual. And so then we look at it and go, okay, wow, virtual trade show, virtual selling. And we know, frankly, nothing about it. What we did know is that we needed a way and a venue to present, display, and launch the new line. And in a venue that was good, right? That it was equal to in quality to an in-person, or certainly equal to in quality to the line and the brand. Standing up, showing socks into a camera wasn't going to do it, right? Using a laptop camera was not an option. So Tressa and I immediately commandeered this room that you're seeing here, and it became our Zoom room. The goal, again, to make the buyer's experience a good one. to come as close as we can to duplicating an in-person presentation. Unfortunately, we couldn't give like maple bacon creamies out, but we had to make sure we could come as close as we could. We developed this. We worked with Zoom right away and started figuring out what their capabilities were. We have 3 cameras in here. I mean, we've taken some of the stuff that they told us how to do and we've enhanced it. We spent a lot of time in here and we wanted to make sure it was right. As I said, 3 different camera views. You guys can't see it here, but there are. We have a spinner that shows a sock 3D as we talk about it, so that the buyer on a Zoom call can see exactly what it is instead of just holding it up flat. We got a bank of lights over here. It looks like a movie set. Upgraded audio. That was important to us when we have anywhere from 1 to 50 people on in a sales meeting situation. We wanted to make sure that the audio both ways was good. Installed 2 massive TVs in here so we can look at split screens and talk to everybody and see what they're talking about if they're wanting to show us stuff. So, Sarah, that was a long. There goes that. There was a long answer to probably a short question, but I appreciate what you guys are doing. And as I said, it was a little scary at first, but I'll bring one more thing up. Sorry, that we couldn't have done this without, and this will sound hokey and corny and stuff, but without Rick and our founder and CEO, it was like he'd been here before. When he started the brand, obviously there were certainly times when we couldn't, when making payroll was going to be in question. So he's really good at that when things are tough, and he was open to all suggestions. He was calming and kept us focused. So I'll just throw that out there that certainly helped us all. So thank you.
I don't think it was too long at all. I think it was perfect. And we'll have Tressa get into in a minute some of the new tech and new ways of working that got teed up.
Yep.
But I think what I so appreciate in what you shared, Mark, is there is a tendency to have it look like everybody's got it together, and for you guys in particular, especially as everyone starts to see some of the new things that you put in place, you've given a taste of it, the room, the sound, the thoughtfulness, that there's that tendency of going, oh, they have it all together. And we hear so many questions around, well, what is everyone else doing? Because you said it perfectly at the top. No one handed us the roadmap. It all became about, what do we need to do now? Every decision was just the decision you made before you needed to make the next one. Obviously, you guys having your North Star with taking care of the employees, the business, your retail. So always having that in mind. So I honestly, the transparency, it's certainly valued by us, and I know the attendees on here as well, to hear like what did things tangibly look like. We're not even far enough out of it now that people are feeling like they even still have it together. There's still so many different ways that we're iterating and going, okay, well now what does 2021 look like? Right. We sort of gritted our teeth through this. So I've got a million more questions for you. Okay. Before we get to that, so for those of you that are tuned into the webinar, if you have questions, we are going to have time for Q&A at the end. Selfishly, I have some that I'm going to trump and ask some of those first once Tressa presents the rest of the content. But if you've got them, there's a Q&A button, put them in there. We'll see, we will make some time at the end if you've got questions for them on different ways they responded, and happy to field as many of those as we can. So Tressa, I'm gonna have you come back and start to go through. Welcome back. Yeah. So nice to see your face. So you've got a bit more to share on some of technical things that you guys teed up to support the brand and your retailers. So I'm going to go back into hiding, have you go through that. And then when we come back, we will go into some questions. So for those of you that have them, don't hold back. They're happy to field them, and we'll make sure we got time for that at the end.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. Before I share the deck again, I wanted to see, Mark, do you want to just do a quick little snip into the camera just to show them kind of the one of the views?
Hang on.
We can do that really quickly on the fly over here. But I figured because he describes the spinning stock and kind of the laydown of socks themselves, and I think
It was, thank you, Tressa. That's, yeah, so, we've got one view. Oops, sorry, that usually doesn't take this long. It's usually on there, but that's your view. We can split screen this view. Usually during the presentation, we learn how to and explain to our retail partners when we're doing a presentation, how to set up their Zoom so they can see the split screen. So you have that on one screen. And we have a display. Again, sorry about that. There we go. Displays on the other. So you can easily flip back and forth if they want to see something on that side. Flip it back over to the sock display. And usually we'll have one sock of that model on the spinner and then the other colors of that same model. But yeah, it was certainly trial by error, as you well know, trying to figure out lighting, trying to figure out the best ways. And I'll tell you, we took a little bit of what Zoom did and we've actually enhanced it. They were asking us how we were doing some of this. So that was kind of fun. So thank you.
Yes, Mark is now a lighting master. So if anyone has questions, go to him on that.
New skill sets.
Yeah. Okay, let me share my screen again and we'll get back to just some of the shifts that we made in the spring due to obviously the pandemic, the changes, the new normal and what everyone needed. So at the time that COVID hit, it was obviously like mid-March is when we were all sent home from the office. And that's about the time of year that we begin working on the assets for the new line that was just locked. So this was the spring 21 line. In a normal circumstance, we would be printing out catalogs, we'd be planning for upcoming trade shows and in-person line showings. And if you can find silver linings, which I tried to in all of this, the silver lining was actually maybe the timing, because we actually started to plan right as this was all happening, so we could shift quickly to the digital version of all that instead of having planned for shows and printed catalogs, et cetera, and then have to shift. So for some reason that worked out well for us. So we pivoted and kind of tried to figure out how we could do all of that, but just through screens. So as Mark touched on, the line showing aspect was the most time sensitive and important part to us right away in launching the new line. So he showed off our showroom. We wanted to still show off the product without compromising the quality of the socks or any of the details that are so important during an in-person showing. So we just wanted to figure out the best way to do that and also best way to support our buyers who were extremely busy during this time, as we all know. So one of the first projects that we started working on was recording our full line. We actually hired a local videographer to come in and shoot the line showing. Our local rep, Sarah, is amazing.
Yay.
Part of the show. She kicked butt. She came in, we had a very long day of recording the full Darn Tough line, as well as kind of each individual category. And so we had all of those professionally shot, professionally edited. And so they were pre-recorded to be accessible through New Order, and they were embedded into our digital selling tool, which I'll touch on next. We also continued this project into the next season. So we just finished wrapping it up for the fall 21 season because the feedback was so positive from spring 21. It allows buyers to watch the videos on their own time, even if they were able to have a Zoom showing or an in-person showing. It's a nice asset for them to be able to refer to later on if they missed anything or wanted to refresh their memory on the socks themselves. For this project, I would recommend investing a little bit in a professional videographer and editor. There's a lot more that goes into recording a video than I ever knew. So most of the projects we did when we shifted, we did them ourselves with a lot of trial and error, but this was one that we put in the hands of the professionals, and it was all worth it. So we'll probably continue to do this going forward, just because it allows another way for buyers to see the line at their leisure. So the videos that we recorded here, we did embed them into our digital selling tool, which might be the most effective asset that we created throughout the process. It's basically a collection of PowerPoints that are curated for all different types of line showing presentations. So whether a rep is meeting with a potential new account and wants to cover everything from total brand history through the entire Darn Tough collection, or if they're seeing a current account and just need to show the new line, we have different versions of the tool for every scenario. Like I mentioned, we have the pre-recorded line showing videos in there. We also have detailed product imagery, design inspirations from our product team for the new line that we're showing, as well as a lot more information. It's kind of all you would need to know about the Darn Tough collection in one easy to use asset. So this is something that we did again for fall 21 and probably will continue to do for the foreseeable future, just because it was such a great asset to provide to buyers for reference or for just as another way to view the line. We noticed very early on, which I'm sure you all did as well, the uptick in the use of social media for selling products, for communications with retailers, or with consumers. And we obviously wanted to help in any way that we could. So we were doing this as a brand, as we do our own social posts. So we basically took what we do and made it available to all of our retailers. I will say a lot of our retailers have been pretty savvy and innovative in using social media for virtual selling, and it's been pretty cool to see, like Facebook and Instagram live selling sessions, the ability to FaceTime shop within store. There's a lot of cool stuff that's going on out there, and we obviously wanted to be a part of it. So we put together a collection of digital assets for social posts that are, they live on Image Relay, accessible to all buyers, and they're kind of a plug and play asset for buyers to just load right into Instagram and Facebook. They're pre-sized, so there's nothing that they need to do. And we have all of our updated imagery on these assets, and we'll continue to update each season going forward. This is a newer project. So we just started working with Endeavor a couple months ago, and we've already seen a huge response from our retail employees all across the country. We're using the platform currently for education missions and in-store merchandising reporting. So with clinics kind of on pause right now, this is a great tool for retail employees to access for brand information, new product tech information. And then we also ask them, in exchange for a discount code, ask them for photos of the Darn Tough displays within the store. So for some reps, it's difficult or even impossible to go in stores right now and check out the displays or recommend updated imagery or POP items. So this is a way to get in the stores, get the photos, see what the setup looks like direct from the retail employees themselves, and get feedback on what's selling, what's not selling, what's needed. So as Mark mentioned, communication, this is just another kind of workaround way to communicate with our retail employees right from the floor. And as Sarah mentioned, it might look like we have it all together, but we definitely don't. We are always learning. We actually have a retail marketing team of us that meet once a week to really get feedback and figure out what we're doing, if it's working, if it's not working, what we need to do. We are all watching so many webinars like this one to get feedback from all of you guys out there. Our community has some awesome things that all the brands are doing out there. So I will say, in the beginning of the pandemic, I watched probably 100 different webinars, and a lot of what we do came from ideas from all of you guys too. So we're always learning. It's an ever-changing environment. We survey our reps. They're probably sick of surveys at this point, but we survey them a lot to get feedback just from the field and what they're hearing. And then, as Mark mentioned in the beginning, we did weekly calls with the reps. We actually still do bi-weekly calls with them because it's still changing. We still don't really know what to expect in the next week, month, 6 months. So we try to keep our finger on the pulse by keeping in touch with them often and getting their feedback on what we can do better and what else our retailers need from us. That's the ultimate goal.
So you're saying that even though it may look like you knew that a pandemic was coming,
Yeah.
you didn't
No.
actually know.
If you could see like the rough draft or the first draft of a lot of these assets, the first line showing, the first, recorded line showing thing, or the first version of our selling tool, it's come a long way. We did not know what we were doing.
So true. Thank you, Tressa, by the way. You guys, rock star. All those things that she's just talked about, she was the driving force behind them. So thank you. Awesome job.
I've got a few questions for the two of you. So if you've got questions for Mark and Tressa, feel free to put them in the Q&A section. I'm going to start off with a couple that I'm burning to ask, if the two of you don't mind. So one of the things that I was really curious about is the ways that you've been helping your retailers with their e-commerce platforms. What is there conversations about that? What does that collaboration look like with them?
Yeah, so we definitely have, and it's been a big topic of discussion, even more so lately, just with our new line launch for fall 21, what kind of assets we can put together, since we're in a good time frame to start kind of modifying what we've done in the past. But I would just first off say our image relay connection has been huge for retailers to be able to access. You can just literally search by a product number. It pulls up all the lifestyle photography or product photography that they can then use on that page on their website. And then we are always looking to enhance content. So we have suggested copy up on Image Relay for all of the products, A+ content. We're currently working on even more content, additional video assets that retailers will be able to use on their website. So we know how important online sales and online presence is right now. We're still kind of learning through it, but yeah, we definitely have made that a focus for the last few months.
100% right, Tress. That I think Image Relay more than anything is to and they're, like Tressa said, they're very savvy anyway. These guys are smart people. They wouldn't be here and still be able to be opening their doors if they weren't. They see what's coming, and that, selling online or selling digitally is going to, it isn't going away. And so anything that we can do, and to your specific question, I would say that, as Tressa said, the stuff that we're offering on Image Relay is probably the most important thing. And we keep, even yesterday, we updated a whole new slew from a run shoot that we did and a hike shoot last week. And those are all available through New Order for the retailers to use on their own sites.
I've got another one for you, if you don't mind. And then there is a bunch coming in from the group, so I will get to some of those as well. I think you might have actually even mentioned it briefly, Tressa, but I was curious to know if there's something, so pandemic hits, obviously a lot of different areas of the business that you're all of a sudden going, okay, how does this transform and translate in this new world? Was there something on that list where you were like, you either didn't want to do it, or maybe you didn't really believe it would work, you were doubtful, but it was sort of like begrudgingly, all right, let's do it. And it actually ended up turning into something that has become a critical part of the strategy now?
Probably a lot of things, but I'd say the biggest one was probably the line showing videos. I think all of us, showing the product in person is such the heart and soul of our brand, of course. And to have to think of how to do that through a screen without someone being able to feel the socks and see the designs up close was really overwhelming. And I think even we thought going into doing the video, and we already decided that we were going to do it, that it just wouldn't be the same, and it wouldn't effectively show the product at the quality of the product as it should in person. Of course, it will never be the same as showing it in person, but it came out awesome. And like I said, we're still doing it. The editing quality, I'll say it again, invest in an editor, because the editing quality of being able to have, you know, the full view of Sarah and then zoom in on the socks themselves and really show the design and the quality of the socks and then back out to Sarah, it worked out really, really well. And it was much easier than we thought it was going to be.
100, again, you answered it exactly. I think the scariest part was how we're going to do, and we asked Sarah, who's our, as Tressa said, our local sales rep, how is this going to be pulled off? And you know, can we duplicate it? And it's like Tressa said, it's never going to be the same, but man, she knocked it out of the park. And to go forward, we will be using this even when we come back to, you know, get out of this and have in-person trade shows. We will probably, I'm pretty convinced already that we will budget for this and always have it. It's an opportunity, as Tressa said, to go out and, you know, they can go back, even if we show it to them, they can go back and view it on their own time.
I think those silver linings are so important because it's a time when we're all trying to find those silver linings, right. and we all have it in our own lives too, where you're like, wait a minute, why did I ever step foot in a grocery store when like grocery delivery, it was a thing before, we didn't do it. So it's those things that I think can be, are so fascinating when it can force creativity in some areas. It can force you to do some things. And yes, there are ways in which we will still prefer when the world can go back to more of a normal state. But there's other things like this where you go, hey, this is going to continue to be a part of the strategy indefinitely. And so one of the questions that came in, which actually is probably a great segue into it because it's more forward facing, is are there things that you guys are thinking about? Can you we all want a little sneak peek into 2021. We've seen what you're doing now. Is there different things that you're thinking about that you may try, or strategies, or has, you know, the focus shifted for you at all as you start to look to what this next year is going to look like?
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to mind, just because I've been working on building our booths in the last few days, is virtual trade shows. Is something that we dabbled in over the summer. There were so many different ones, and everyone was trying to figure out what was the right platform and the right ones to attend and not attend. And so we dabbled a little bit. We definitely only briefly got our feet wet. We're not experts on it. So we're attending a few in the next couple months. So that's a change and a shift for us that we're trying to figure out still. Obviously, we go to a lot of trade shows in a normal year, a lot. And so not being able to go and see everybody in person and show the product in person and trying to figure out how to do it on a website is definitely still a challenge. I think it'll be interesting, and I'm excited to see what the different platforms are about. But that's, I would say, one of our focus, at least for Q1 of 2021, is trying to wrap our heads around that situation.
And to that is also, as I spoke before, was like the line size. Like, still, what is the right, you know, the right line size? Are we doing, are we helping our retailers, right? Of course we want new, and you know, half of the thing when we discussed it, even when we called it the first time, is when people are in the doldrums and not knowing and they're scared as we were, what's going to happen, you know, sometimes fresh is what you need. So we certainly didn't want to come and go, you know, not offer anything new. So it was, you know, I still think as we go forward, it's still a lot of that. It's what should the right size of the line be to help our retail partners not get overwhelmed, but also offer enough new. So that balance is we keep looking at it. And before, it was not even something we talked about. It was just, here's what we want new, here's what we've developed.
This is I think a really good question. And so this one that has come in is really thinking about your sales reps. And Mark, you had mentioned a couple of things about the different audiences that you needed to focus on as a company, and that being a key one of them. Like, now everybody's, you know, you mentioned connecting more often and having to sell in different ways. So this question is, you know, how are they adapting to this new normal? So like looking at it from their seat, you know, is there additional things that you've given them? You're in this beautiful room, Mark. We've got the different cameras and things. What are those kinds of things that are looking like for your sales reps that are out all over the country selling? So I think it's two parts from what I'm seeing in this question. One is, how are they adapting? And then also, are there additional tools that they have to be successful as they're going out and selling in this new normal?
So that's a really good question, because it was fun to watch and all of us be part of it. Because at the beginning, again, because it was so diverse across the country, we had guys in the South who were like, I'm doing trade, I'm going out, I'm seeing people, I'm doing this because it's okay. And it was for that, right? But then it was like, that's not going to work. So what else can they do? And so, my comment about not using a laptop to show their line, because we're not going to show everybody from here, right? There's too many. So they're doing their own line presentations, and they've all invested a lot in their own quote unquote Zoom rooms. We've talked about it with each one of them, how they're showing. The guys in the West went out and bought what's called an owl. It's an awesome little device that helps show product, and the audio is amazing. So they've all invested in how to do their own basic Zoom rooms. What we've given them, I think, more than anything, is support, right? Because they're for us anyway, and this team is amazing. They're independent, so if they don't sell, they don't get paid, and so we needed to help any way we can and make sure that we give them the support. It's trial and error for them as well. They were going in, now they can't do it. Through a month ago, clinics were still on. Now you can't have clinics. So there was nervous for them too. I think probably as much, if not more, from our side.
And just to kind of add to that, you mentioned Mark's Zoom room there and the setup and everything. Some of our reps, like Comco mentioned, have a full showroom setup, and it's beautiful. Yep. And to help support that, we did send them updated like pop-up banners and backdrops and stuff like that. So they did have some more updated lifestyle photography to use in their showrooms. One thing that we did that I've heard positive feedback on is actually supplying extra sample sets, so that they, ahead of key account showings, they could actually get their buyers a set of socks, so that when they were showing via Zoom, the buyers had them in their hands to look at in person, and then send them back, sanitize, all that. But at least you weren't being able to do the in-person line showing, but they would be able to feel and see the socks while being presented the line.
I'm so pleased that question came up, because I think what you guys just shared, it was a very, very good one. So thanks to Gareth for asking that one, because it gave us even a few more nuggets of things that you guys were doing. And I think it's a great point that it's not even just a blanket strategy of, well, what does it mean for our sales reps? It's, well, what does it mean for one in one state versus another in another state, based on how, and not only were those restrictions different and still are different, they're changing constantly. So between the increased communication that you have with them, the tools and the technical things and the room setup and all of that can come together, but also means you're constantly having to shift and adjust as, now we're going back into another period of more stricter lockdowns again.
I think to your point, it's learning, right? And it's constant, and every day is different.
Yeah, I've got time for one more, and I'm probably going to run up against it, so I'll force the two of you to, speak quickly. But this one is specific to New Order and the B2B. So this question that came in was about, how did you get your retailers to adopt a tool like this? So you guys have been customers of ours for a couple of years. If you can quickly share a little bit about what was that process like of getting them used to it. This question specifically mentions like going there for inventory availability. Like, how did you start to get them embracing that strategy for you?
We were lucky, I would say, that our retailers adopted it very quickly. We had thought going in we would have to provide some sort of incentive to drive people to the site, but we actually didn't end up having to do that. I think the newsletter actually helped. So the first ones right after we launched New Order were all about best practices. We set up training sessions for our retailers and our reps included as well, to kind of get them familiar with the platform and how easy to use it really is. Like I said, we didn't really do anything specific to drive people to New Order other than setting up training sessions for them. If they would call in and ask for inventory numbers, we'd remind them about the New Order portal and send them to there instead. But yeah, we've had a really high adoption rate for New Order itself. And it's probably not the same for everybody, but I think we were really lucky that our buyers seemed ready when we.
No, absolutely. I think the homework that we did was probably a lot of it. So when we chose New Order, we had been looking at 3 or 4 others. And, we went out and reached out to like the Hestras of the world that were with you before us. And, we knew that our retailers would like it because of the amount of people that were already using it. And it was the easiest and it was highly recommended. So from our side, it was a pretty easy choice. And I think that had a lot to do with it.
Well, I'm so pleased that we can be a part of your story, and thank you, both of you, bottom of my heart, for your willingness, your openness to share. It means the world, and I know that what you've provided today is so practical and based in reality for so many of the challenges that everyone is dealing with. So there was a few more questions around different capabilities that New Order has. If there's any additional information that you want on us, you can email me, Sarah Sandberg at neworder.com. If there's additional things that you want to know about Darn Tough, you're interested in working with them, you want to know more about what they're doing, you can get a hold of Tressa at darntough.com. Massive, huge thank you to everyone who joined. Mark and Tressa, bottom of my heart, thank you for participating today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you guys. Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Yes, and thank you from SIA to both New Order and Darn Tough for pulling this together. You really do make it look easy. Although I know from talking with you both, it has been anything but. So I really appreciate that. And I want to, we had a very nice comment come in from an attendee that's just says that, it's enlightening to see how you were able to quickly shift and adjust to the new normal. You're raising the bar for the outdoor segment. Thanks for the takeaways. So just want to say that, your time has been appreciated by everybody. So thank you.
Awesome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Stay safe and healthy, and look forward to seeing everybody in person again soon sometime.
Hopefully soon.
Absolutely. Hopefully soon. Get on an airplane.
Yeah. Take care.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.